Hello, SR families. This is week two of our parent resources. So I would encourage you watch this video, check out the devotional if you're going to be walking through that with your students or encouraging them to participate in that. We want to equip you guys to have great conversations to build off of what takes place at the Ridge. So this past couple weeks, we've been talking about rejection, this word rejection. As many of you know, this year, our theme for the year is relationships. And a part of relationships, that real portion, is an acronym. And the first letter of that is R, and that stands for rejection. And this describes some of the relationships we have and how it applies to rejection. And last week we talked about God, and we talked about, do we reject God, not only as a part of our lives, but even on a daily basis when we pursue our own desires. This week, we're going to talk about rejection as it applies to someone who is hard to love, someone who is difficult. In the Bible, there are multiple examples of people who would be considered hard to love, but one that sticks out to me that is great is Zacchaeus. And we all know the song, Zacchaeus was a wee little man, right? But the truth of the matter is, this Zacchaeus individual, I don't think it would be a stretch for us to say that he was hard to love. I would go so far as to say he was probably hated by his peers. When we recognize the position of tax collector, we recognize that Zacchaeus was someone who was, of Jewish birth, of Jewish blood, and yet he was elevated by the Romans to tax his fellow Jews. And anything that he collected above what Caesar needed or above what Rome required, he could keep. So let's say Rome said, hey, Zacchaeus, we need $2 from everybody. And Zacchaeus charges everybody $6. Well, that's $4. I know, math, right? $4 that Zacchaeus would keep. And so it's pretty clear that he was benefiting off of his Jewish brothers and their families, and based on the taxes. So, this is a guy who's literally stealing their money. And then Jesus comes to town and is surrounded by all these people, and Zacchaeus gets up in the trees. Jesus recognizes him and he goes to Zacchaeus' home for dinner. And one of the key things that is just ironic about this is Jesus loved those who were hard to love, those who were rejected, those who had done wrong. It would have been so sadly, selfishly satisfying if Jesus had been like, yeah, Zacchaeus, you basically took advantage of my people, so stinks to be you, I'm not going to even talk to you, or something, I don't know, something more better than that, better diss than that. But the point being, it doesn't. Instead, he looks at Zacchaeus and he says, this is a lost and broken person. This is a sheep without a shepherd. This is someone who needs guidance and care, and so I'm going to love on them. And he cares for them, and Zacchaeus actually changes his life around through this. And so what can we draw out of that? Well, I think it's pretty clear. When we're dealing with people who are hard to love and people who are what we would classify as rejected or someone we may be difficult to spend time with, we need to go above and beyond and love them well, because we're representing Christ. And Jesus didn't come to save those who are perfect. He came to seek those who were broken, lost, destroyed, set apart. He came to save everyone, but the ones who recognized their need for a Savior were the ones who were, in that position of just brokenness and hardship and challenge. And so we want to emulate that in the way that we live, in loving our brothers and sisters, loving those who are hard to love. So that's the topic we're going to be talking about this week. Some great questions to ask your students are things like, hey, who's someone who's hard to love in your life? What actions or steps are you intentionally taking to love them, right? Hey, this person at school is hard to love. Are you intentionally inviting them to sit with you at lunch? Or maybe it's a sibling. Hey, this sibling's hard to love. Are you intentionally making it harder for them? Or are you trying to find ways to connect with them to do these things, whatever it may be? Go there with your students. And then I would encourage you to take it a step further. I want to challenge you guys as parents to maybe share even someone who's hard for you to love and say, this in my own life is something that is a challenge. Let me be honest and vulnerable with you, and prayerfully ask you to be honest and vulnerable with me. I do think relationships are two-sided, and so it's important for us, not only as we ask questions, to not interrogate your kids, our students, whatever, but instead to journey with them, and that means sharing vulnerably and honestly. So that's kind of my challenge for you guys as parents this week. I hope this is beneficial. I hope this equips you to just continue conversations, to utilize that, and to further your child's discipleship. Look forward to seeing them at the Ridge. We love you guys. We care about you a ton. Have a great week.